Hello Leafs Nation, I'm Rick Scarborough and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates of the Leafs and the hockey world at large, except, well, the Leaf season is over and I'm officially on vacation, so enjoy the best moments of the Blue and White Weekly season. And remember, go Leafs, go! Florida Panthers defenseman Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games after a failed drug test found him to be using performance-enhancing substances. Ekblad claims he was taking something to help him recover from an injury, but come on, Aaron. A guy your age? You don't have to make up a story. We've all been there. It's all right. It was announced earlier this week that goaltender Anthony Stolarz would miss 4 to 6 weeks for knee surgery after scans showed what looks like, quote, almost like a little pebble that was stuck behind his knee, says Leafs GM Brad Treliving. That's all well and good, Stolarz, that you got a little pebble behind your knee, but I've got a whole rock behind mine.
Do you smell what the rock is cooking?
Hello Leafs Nation, I'm Rick Scarborough and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. This week is our annual performance assessments, and so I'm joined by our executive producer, Rachel Richmond, but that's not what's important. What's important is we have a
I think it's very important, Rick.
I'm sorry?
My presence here, your performance assessment, I think it's very important.
No, it's just it's a thing that I say to like open up.
Do you value your job, Rick? That's what I thought. Now let's get into the news.
Oilers captain Connor McDavid was suspended for 3 games for a cross-check to the head of Vancouver's Connor Garland. Garland and McDavid were tied up in the dying seconds of the game, and McDavid's temper seemed to get the better of him following the play. On the ensuing scrum, Vancouver's Tyler Myers laid a cross-check to the face of Edmonton's Evan Bouchard and also received a 3-game suspension. For more thoughts on the matter, we turn to our junior intern, Gillsy. What's going on, dudes and dudettes? It's your boy Gillsy, and I am back on Blue and White Weekly, where, as you well know, well, Rick just teed it up, our boy McDavid, the big Davo, old 97, he went and got himself the 3-game sussy for a cross-check on Garland. So, to celebrate, we're going to try his burger. This is the Big Mac David from McDonald's. Big old 97 on the tin there for you. Crack that open. And well, it looks like a Big Mac. A lot bigger than the Smoky Quarter Pappy. I think McDavid's compensating for something. That is a big burger. Righty then. Oh. Oh yeah. You can taste the Edmonton oil in it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, guys. This is just a Big Mac.
Yo, is that the Big Mac David?
Back to you, Rick. I do believe we just witnessed an assault on our broadcast. Wow.
All right, so big 2-0 dub out of the boys. What are we feeling going into Game 7?
Oh, we're 100% winning.
It doesn't sound as good as we want Florida, but we want Carolina. Okay, I like to see it. I like to see it. Cause after all, you're my Joseph. Whoa!
I want to give a special shout out to this little shimmy that Wool did after the win, which was simultaneously badass, adorable, and if we're going to be honest, made me question several things about myself. Bottom line is, Wool should make this a regular thing after wins. In possibly the biggest storyline of the summer, John Tavares has stepped aside and handed off the C. Austin Matthews is now the 26th captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a change many have called a long time coming. It has also given Matthews yet another nickname, Captain Underpants. And with more thoughts on the Battle of Ontario, we go to our senior analyst, Byron Doyle. John Tavares is a crystal girly. It was discovered by Twitter users this week that John Tavares has endorsed an amulet sold by British actor and comedian Russell Brand. The amulet is said to promote health and wellness, heal wounds, and even repel Wi-Fi and 5G. That whole situation is funnier than any joke I could ever write, so I'm just going to move on. For more on the tight race in the Atlantic and the Eastern Conference as a whole, we go to our rinkside reporter, Riley Roberts. Thanks, Rick, and I am here outside Ford Performance Center on a beautiful day in Toronto, and the wild card battle is shaping up in an interesting fashion. While the race in the East is always a tight one, We usually see the same teams in the conversation year in and year out, but not this time. This year we've seen noticeable drop-off from the typical powerhouses like the Bruins and Rangers, who are the last two President's Trophy winners if you'll remember, and they are both filtering in and out of wildcard spots. And we've seen rise from teams who have been in rebuilds for quite some time, such as the Red Wings, Blue Jackets, and Senators. But the most interesting turn has been from the Montreal Canadiens, bolstered by the re-addition of Patrick Laine to their lineup. After finishing last in the Atlantic in the past 3 seasons, the Habs have found themselves in and out of a wildcard spot several times just this week. Sorry about that. Now, Rick, if you're like me at all and you like to play the game of what if the playoffs finished today, and we could have seen a Leafs and Habs matchup. However, to give you a picture of just how close this Eastern wildcard race has been, the Leafs' potential playoff opponents just in the last week have included the Habs, Bruins, Blue Jackets, and Lightning. And before you ask, yes, those are the same 4 teams that the Leafs have played in the first round since 2017. 4 teams on repeat for 8 years. Our playoff format is a bit broken. Anyways, back to you in the studio, Rick. Not to call you a liar or anything, Riley, but the outside of the Leafs practice facility looks suspiciously like Google Maps being streamed onto your living room TV. Hello Leafs Nation, I'm Rick Scarborough and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. I'm starting my Grey Cup party, well, a little bit too early, but that's not what's important. GM Brad Treliving revealed this week that Austin Matthews had flown over to Munich, Germany to consult a specialist for his mysterious upper body injury. His condition has not worsened or improved since he came out of the lineup, says Treliving, but management is confident he could play as early as Wednesday against the Florida Panthers. All I have to say is Germany isn't that far of a flight from Turkey, and if our captain needs to rehab anything, it's that hairline. Before that though, a quick note from the world of football. As we record this, we are on the eve of the Super Bowl, but more importantly, we are only 100 days away from the opening day of the CFL season. And in another signing, the Leafs at last came to terms with pending restricted free agent Nick Robertson, extending the 23-year-old to a 1-year, $875,000 contract. Coincidentally, $875,000 is also the amount of money I spent on Harveys last year. The Leafs had their first prime Monday Night Hockey of the year as they took on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and in one broadcast, Prime managed to outdo the last 11 years of Sportsnet broadcasting. I never thought I'd be the one to say this, but thank you, Amazon. Austin Matthews potted his first of the season on Wednesday night, and his first as captain of the Maple Leafs. And immediately, the worst person you know tweeted out, "The quest for 70 begins." For the record, the worst person you know is the NHL PR account. Anthony Stolarz is worth mentioning here, not just because he basically kept the Leafs' hopes of a comeback alive in this game, but also because he did this little shuffle out of the scrum that I am still cackling over. The game ended as most games against the Lightning seem to, with a scuffle and everyone grabbing a dance partner. John Tavares had a Lightning player in an armbar so good, I thought Bret Hart was out on the ice. And don't get me wrong, love to see some fights, but the refs lost control of this game. That's on you there, Jerry Bettman, right? You had Jake McCabe throwing hands with Braden Shen. You got Pontus Holmberg, he's throwing down with Pavel Budweiser Budnevich, whatever the heck his name is. Don't like to see that. Oh, and another. Okay, we're going to cut you off there, Byron, because something tells me you'd keep talking till you ran out of breath, which at your age could happen any second. John Tavares says he's embracing red light therapy to help him with recovery and aging. Inspired by John, I'm happy to announce that I too will be switching to a form of red therapy. And Florida would hang on for that 2-0 win, but not before a skirmish in the corner in the dying seconds of the game that had penalties called, gloves flying, and the crowd chanting, USA. Right. Chanting USA for the team captained by a Finnish player. And the guy on your team with his gloves off is Canadian. Make that make sense, Floridians. Steven Lorentz capped off the goals with an empty netter, and Anthony Stolarz shut the door as the Leafs took this one 4-0. And this was the only thing that happened on the night of Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. No other news occurred in the world on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Just the Leafs beating the Bruins. Leafs captain Austin Matthews made his return in this game, and I'm trying to get in touch with him about being my partner for pool night at the pub, as he pulled off the cue shot of the century with his empty netter to seal the victory 6-4. For a more in-depth look at just how impressive Matthews' empty netter was, we're going to throw to our junior intern, Gillsy. What's going on, fellas? It's me, Gillsy, and I am back on Blue and White Weekly, where we're going to try something a little different today. You know, you probably saw Pappy's nice little empty netter from the other night where he popped that in, chasing down the puck. And, you know, inspired by that, we're here at the billiards table. We're going to try something a little funky. So, inspired by Pappy, instead of using the good old-fashioned pull cue to sink this 8-ball into the pocket there, you know, pull cue, it's nice and all, but nah. Taking a cue out of Pappy's book, we're gonna go for one of these. That's right, a real man's weapon, or reliable, the wood hockey stick sure would have proved. You already know what's up, baby. All right, so in Pappy fashion, he used the blade because he's just like that. I don't trust myself that much. I'm using the butt of the stick, and here we go. It's just like that. Little ricochet kills. You already know how it is. All right, that is me, Gillsy, for Blue and White Weekly. Let's send it back to Ricky. Sláinte Leafs Nation, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm Rick Scarborough, and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. I've been asked nicely by our hair and makeup team to not drink this lovely pint of Guinness so as to not mess up my nicely groomed mustache, but that's not what's important. What's important is we have a brand new week of Maple Leafs and St. Pat's hockey to talk about, so let's get into the news. The Leafs moved on to New Jersey Thursday to take on former head coach Sheldon Keefe and the Devils in a 4-2 win. Keefe expressed before the game he has nothing but well wishes for the Leafs as this new season gets underway. The Leafs responded by tearing through Keefe's defense faster than John Tavares tears through a bottle of kombucha. Thank you very much, Dick. That's right, folks. It's me, Byron Doyle. You know me, you love me. I'm here for Labatt Blue Weekly, or whatever you're calling this nightmare of a broadcast. And I wanted to talk to you today about one of the age-old enemies of our Toronto Maple Leafs. No, it's not the Habs. No, it's not the Bruins. No, it's not the price of a beer at the ACC or Scotiabank, whatever that gets called these days. No, I'm talking about the refs. Cut the music. Hello, Leafs Nation. I'm Rick Scarborough, and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. As the Leafs played their next-gen game this week, we decided to make this week our next-gen special. So I will not be your host today. Today, I turn the chair over to our junior intern, Gillsy. What the f*** is up, Leafs Nation? It appears Mitch Marner turns into the second coming of Matt Sundin when the stars align. Those stars, of course, being that it's a contract year for Marner, a meaningless December weekend game is being played, and that game is against a divisional rival. The Leafs and Islanders party rolled into the new year as they finished off the second half of the back-to-back on Thursday on Long Island, and still, 7 years later, Islanders fans continue to boo John Tavares whenever he enters their arena. All I have to say is a quote from the late, great Winston Churchill, "We live in rent-free, bro." Montreal goaltender Sam Montembeault set a league record for most saves in a season-opening shutout with 48. That's also the first time the Leafs have been shut out since November 20th, 2021, which I'm sure we all remember is the same day as the Malacca state election. Bettman also provided an update on his own future when asked if there was any discussion with managers of his eventual retirement, saying, quote, "Absolutely not. You keep trying to get rid of me. No such luck. I'm going to outlast you." Ignoring the fact that that sounds like a supervillain monologue, I suppose the old saying is true. There are only 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Gary Bettman. Everyone's favorite internet family, or least favorite depending who you are, the Costco guys, were special guests at last Saturday's LA Kings game, where they got the chance to hang out post-game with Quinton Byfield, who scored that night's game winner against the St. Louis Blues. Since meeting the Costco guys, the Kings are 5-0 and Byfield has a goal in each of those 5 games. For me, that gets 5 big booms. Boom! 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 I really don't get paid enough to do this.
That was a fantastic report, Riley. I love the work you've been doing.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Richmond.
Have you ever thought about doing more for the company? Expanding your skill set?
What did you have in mind?
Have you ever thought about anchoring? You have the charisma, and the people love you.
Well, thank you. The thought has crossed my mind, but we have an anchor, Rick, remember?
For now.
I fear for my job. And Riley's life. Skipping ahead in the week, the Leafs were back at home hosting Craig Berube's old team, the St. Louis Blues. When asked by reporters before the game where his Blues Stanley Cup ring was, Berube answered that for all he knew, his wife had pawned it off. Now, don't tell anyone this, but she did. And she gave me a good price for it. Thanks very much, Rick. And folks, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not at the rink today. I am in a garage somewhere, and I think I've been kidnapped. But the news goes on anyway. And I don't know about you, but the updates were blowing up my phone Friday evening as news trickled in regarding this blockbuster deal. TSN's Pierre LeBrun began the speculation when he reported a 3-team trade involving Chicago's Taylor Hall going to Carolina. 20 minutes after that, Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet told us that Colorado's Mikko Rantanen was also on the way to Carolina, confirming the Avalanche as the 3rd team in the deal. It took a few hours for the dust to settle, but the final trade looks something like this. Colorado has acquired both Martin Necas and Jack Drury from Carolina, and Carolina has acquired Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall. Chicago has helped to facilitate the trade by taking on 50% of Rantanen's salary, and in return, they take a 3rd-round pick from Carolina that was Chicago's to begin with. With just over a month to go until the trade deadline, this is just the beginning of what should be a very exciting time to be a hockey fan. But until there's more to tell, I'll send it back to you in the studio, Rick. I'm so cold. Was that real? Has he actually been kidnapped? We've been getting ransom notes for a week. Why have we not done anything about it? Thanks very much, Rick. And before I get into the salary cap news, a quick update on, well, myself. After my report on the Mikko Rantanen trade last week, my kidnappers have moved me to a second location, and I continue to not know where I am. I have not shaved in several weeks, as you can see. I haven't seen sunlight in, well, who knows how long. And I've been living on a steady diet of Cheetos and dust bunnies. But the show must go on. The NHL and NHLPA announced Friday the projected salary cap numbers over the next 3 seasons. Now, currently, as we stand in the 24-25 season, the salary cap maximum is set to $88 million. In simple terms, that means that a team's total cap hit amongst all of its players cannot exceed $88 million. The cap has only seen slight rises over the last few years, but that's all about to change. Friday's announcement declared that next season we will see a jump to a $95 million cap ceiling, followed by $104 million after that, and as high as $113.5 in the 2027 season. There are a lot of reasons for these large jumps, including factors such as players wanting higher salaries, fans wanting to see a more competitive free agent market, but the largest component is likely the increased revenue the league has seen over the last year or two. With broadcast deals, sponsorships, ticket gates, and merchandise all raking in more and more money, the league, and by extension its teams, have more money to spend on players' contracts. The bottom line is, if you're unsure if you want to spend money next time you're at the game, just know that your overpriced beer is going towards Mitch Marner's next extension. Now, these numbers are all just projections, so until we know more, I'll send it back to you in the studio, Rick. Please help me. Have we still not found where he is? He's just a kid. Why is he still kidnapped? Get someone out there and go rescue him. It's been 2 weeks. Hello, Leafs Nation. I'm Rick Scarborough, and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. This week, Hey, Rick. Riley. Where have you been? I've been, I was kidnapped. I was put in the storage closet for like 2 weeks now. Oh, well, I'm glad you're okay. Could you go to Seattle for us this week? Yeah. Yeah, I'll go. I'll leave right now. Hi, Mom. Let's get into the news. To follow up on this game, we go now to our rinkside reporter, Riley Roberts, in Seattle. Thanks very much, Rick, and I'm here outside Climate Pledge Arena with Brandon Tanev of the Seattle Kraken. Brandon, how are you feeling after Thursday night's loss to the Maple Leafs?
I think you got the wrong guy there.
Okay, who are we here with then?
I'm just a nobody from the Peterborough Beer League.
Peterborough Beer League, okay. That's a nice jersey you have there.
Yeah, thanks.
How's Beer League going in Peterborough then?
Oh, well, it's going pretty good. Well, actually pretty bad. We're in second to last place right now. We haven't won a game all year, but, we're scraping by.
Right, so room for improvement, but things could always be worse.
You could say that, yeah, you could say that.
Right, well, thanks for your time. Back to you in the studio, Rick.
Thank you.
Riley, I know you've had a tough last few weeks, and you're probably very tired and confused, but Peterborough and Seattle are very far apart. That feels like a difficult thing to mess up. Oilers captain Connor McDavid made comment in the media Saturday regarding the Leafs' arrival in town, complaining about the apparent preferential treatment that the Toronto market receives in the schedule, saying, quote, "We get the 5 o'clock start time locally. They come into our building and we got to change our schedule around, but it is what it is." You know, Connor, you wouldn't have this issue if you were a Leaf. Wink, wink. The Utah Hockey Club revealed this week the finalist options for their team name. Initially, the options were Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth, and Utah Wasatch, prompting everybody around the NHL to say in unison, "What the heck is a Wasatch?" That option has since been replaced with Utah Outlaws. The three names also came with logos, which might look familiar if you've ever played Create a Team in Chell. A McDonald's in Newmarket, Ontario has renamed itself to McDavid's in honor of the hometown hero's exploits at the Four Nations Face-Off. I'll tell you, this is a great gesture and all, but also genius marketing. I drive past this exact McDonald's several times a week, and now I might actually go inside for once. So, where do these signings leave the Leafs, who have already struggled with the salary cap in this preseason? Well, according to Kyle Cushman of thescore.com, taking today's signings into account, if the Leafs were to send down Easton Cowan, place Fraser Minton on season-opening injury reserve, place Connor Dewar on injury reserve, and assign Kelly Yarncroke, Yanni Hakanpää, and Dakota Mermis to long-term injury reserve, that would leave the team with exactly $1 in cap space. Now, I sincerely hope that Brad Treliving and his cap wizard Brandon Pridham are better at math than I am. It has also been confirmed that the Leafs at least inquired with the Boston Bruins about captain Brad Marchand before he was traded to the Florida Panthers. We don't exactly know how far talks went, but as for... there it is. Howdy there, folks. Byron Doyle here, Blue and White Weekly, and I got something to say. He cut our feed? A man that cannot tie his own shoes, cannot remember my name, and sometimes cannot even remember his own name, cut the feed, hijacked our broadcast, and went on a rant about Brad Marchand. You never cease to find ways to surprise me, Byron. Hello, Leafs Nation. I'm Rick Scarborough, and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. Don't mind me here, folks. I'm just pouring myself a nice pintous homebrew, but that's not what's important. The Chicago Blackhawks and St. Louis Blues squared off in the annual Winter Classic on New Year's Eve, with the Blues taking the game 6-2. And now I'm going to implore the NHL to please add any other teams to the Classic. The Blackhawks have now appeared in 5 Winter Classics, and the Blues in 3. Please go anywhere else than the American Midwest. Go to Vancouver, go to Columbus, or, and this is a radical idea, play at neutral sites that don't have NHL teams, and do what you always say you're going to do and grow the game. Go to Halifax, go to Atlanta, or literally anywhere other than Chicago again. Please. That's not the last we'd hear about Benoit in this one, as right off the next face-off after that goal, he dropped the gloves with Utah's Michael Kesselring and start off the brawl channeling his inner Roman Reigns, going for the Superman punch off the bat. The punch didn't end up landing, and in all honesty, Benoit kind of got ragdolled, but it made for some impressive snapshots and had people like Georges St. Pierre talking about it, which is always good for the game. Utah Hockey Club owner Ryan Smith announced Utah HC Plus, a streaming service available for just $1, where fans can watch all remaining games this season and games in the first round should the team make it to the playoffs. Meanwhile, in other parts of the league, we've got whatever that is. Later on in the second, in the back half of the period, another bouncing puck would go flying, this time into the Leafs' net, as Brady Tkachuk, pictured here in his role as Gothmog in Return of the King, would get the Sens on the board.
What a sick London Knights tarp. I love to see it. Mitchie Marner on the back. All right, what do you like out of your boy Marner in Game 6 there?
Marner got that assist. We know he needed those points. Got Matthews the confidence back. I think Matthews, 2 goals, Game 7.
2 goals, Game 7. All right, what about 7? What about our boy Joey Wool? You like the performance?
Joey Wool, 2 shutouts back-to-back. I'm calling it right now.
Oh, he's calling it right now. That's a big bet on FanDuel right there, boys.
Give me the 5,000 plus 5,000.
Prime Minister Mark Carney partook in Oilers' morning skate on Thursday, participating in drills with the team and even getting his own stall in the locker room. I'm glad they were able to find a real goalie and can finally move on from Stuart Skinner. A seemingly mundane shot from a Blue Jacket that got blocked by Chris Tanev was actually a piece of history. It was Tanev's 177th block this season, and that will give him the Maple Leafs record for single-season blocked shots, passing the previous mark set by Carl Gunnarsson. It's not a name I've heard in a while, I'll be honest. And so with those back-to-back wins in their pocket, the Leafs moved down to Tennessee to tangle with the Predators on Saturday night. Are you from Tennessee? Because Willie Nylander's the only 10 I see. Wait, that's not how that goes. After a scoreless first period, the game would see its first goal about 5 minutes into the second, when Stephen Lorentz one-times a Scott Lawton pass from the high slot past Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and the Leafs are on top. Fun fact, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was actually named after the noise Chewbacca makes when he falls down the stairs. After tying the all-time goals record last week, Alexander Ovechkin passed Wayne Gretzky's milestone exactly one day after our last episode came out. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad that we missed getting Ovi's record-breaking achievement into the last episode. You know, an episode that we named after him, that we put him in the thumbnail of. I'm not mad about it at all, Ovi. Congratulations. Nevertheless, Ovechkin scored a classic, rifling one past New York's Ilya Sorokin on the power play from the top of the dot to become the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. Immediately after scoring the goal, the game was paused with 12 minutes left in the second to have a full-blown 20-minute ceremony, rolling the carpet out onto the ice and welcoming Ovi's family alongside Gretzky himself and Commissioner Gary Bettman. I suppose it's a case of the lesser of two evils, listening to a Gary Bettman speech or watching 60 minutes straight of Islanders hockey. The third period began with a Sens goal scored by known weasel Ridley Gregg, though after that, Ottawa chose to stop playing hockey and instead incite riots and scrums that would make the Royal Rumble look like a tea party. The NHL announced this week that this year's NHL draft will be held in Los Angeles on June 27th. This is the first year the league is trying out a decentralized draft, where managers and teams stay in their home offices and phone their picks into the draft center to be announced by Commissioner Gary Bettman. Ignoring the fact that this means we'll have to sit and listen to Bettman talk all night long, I'm curious what teams are going to use to communicate with each other and with the league. How much you want to bet Kyle Dubas suggested using Discord?
How we feeling, bud? We're feeling fantastic, buddy. That was the best fucking shutout I've seen in Leafs history. That's what I'm saying. So you're liking roll. I'm loving it, man. He was on fire tonight. He was so fucking cool. So the code 4. Everybody was saying the code 4 needs to step up. Did they? Oh yeah, Matthews with a big, huge goal to open up the scoring, and it was fucking beautiful.
Austin Matthews finally remembered that he's a goal scorer and not just a handsome face, and he picks up his first of the playoffs in the first minute of the third. And, oh, Mark, buddy, what are you doing? Are you lost there? The best goal scorer on the ice is behind you. He's on the other side of the net. You got to turn around. You may have seen over the last few weeks a series of commercials starring Leafs captain Austin Matthews and Oilers captain Connor McDavid competing in challenges with each other for the prize of a McDonald's Big Mac. This is all to promote a new showdown menu from McDonald's, which includes hockey-themed items such as the Selly Sundae, Power Play Poutine, and the featured burgers, the Big Mac David, and the Smoky Quarter Pappy. For more thoughts on this collab, we turn it over to our junior intern, Gillsy. What's going on, dudes and dudettes? It's your boy Gillsy, and I am back on Blue and White Weekly, where I'm going to be trying the Austin Matthews burger. So we got here from McDonald's. They call it the Smoky Quarter Pappy, and it's a burger, I guess, based on Austin Matthews. We got, McDonald's logo up front there with the hockey sticks. We got a 34 on the box, just like our boy 34. And we open it up. It looks like a burger. That looks like a McDonald's burger, but oh yeah, I can taste Pappy. That tastes like Austin Matthews. I'm going to be honest, that's just a hamburger. Back to you, Rick. I'm going to be entirely honest with you, Gillsy. That did not look appetizing.
Leafs in 7. Leafs in 7. This is easy.
Yeah, Leafs in 7?
This is what we're going to do, okay? We're going to see the Panthers. We're going to beat them up. We're going to grab them. We're going to take them behind the shed.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to beat them up some more.
Okay.
We're going to leave them there.
Yep.
We're going to win Game 7. Carolina, good night.
The performance out of our boy Joseph Wall tonight, how are we feeling?
Incredible. Elimination games, this guy's unbeatable. Unbeatable. Shout out Joseph Wall.
Yep.
Joseph Wall, brick wall. It's his net. His net now.
Let's get a score prediction for Game 7. What about that?
9-0.
Yep.
It's a blowout. Yeah.
Blowout.
Like 6-7-0. Yeah.
Just 6-7, 67. I like it. I like it. This guy's prophesying over here.
Hey.
Yeah, Gary Roberts confirms it. Leafs go! Go, Leafs go! Leafs is 7, here we go! In what has caused quite the stir and speculation in Leafs Nation this week, the letter O has disappeared from team branding on both social media and the screens outside Scotiabank Arena. This has led us to believe only one thing. The O's have been placed on LTIR to circumvent the cap. In other Leafs news, the O's have been found. Last week, we discussed the missing O's on social media. Turns out this was done to promote Oreo as the team's new helmet sponsor. With the Leafs sporting both cookies and milk on their uniform this year, I would not be shocked if they announced a new mascot, Santa Claus. This game was just a lot to deal with. I'm having trouble formulating my thoughts, so we're going to go to our ringside reporter, Riley Roberts, with more on last night's travesty.